ladies and gentlemen, and a very big mazel tov, first and foremost, to you, Adam, and your Jewish name is Yosef Daron. On Friday night, at the meal, I spoke about the significance of Adam. Today I'll have to say something about Yosef Daron. So mazel tov to you, mazel tov to your mom and dad, and mazel tov also to your grandparents. So to Daryl and to Andy, Jill Mervis, mazel tov, and to Mac and Bernice McWilliam, mazel tov. Yeah. Well, it's unusual to have a bar mitzvah on a Sunday morning, or at least not that usual, but it does have its advantages, as I'll speak about soon. But first of all, I should like to say a couple of words to our bar mitzvah bacher, to Adam. You did fantastically well today. You said the brachot really well. Hallel was a pleasure to listen to, and your laning was fantastic. So kol hakavod to you, and kol hakavod to your teacher Oli, and God willing you should go from strength to strength. And I heard that when you were about 9 years old, you and your mum had a little debate. And you said to your mum apparently that if she keeps Shabbos, then you'll become a rabbi. And then she said, no, if you become a rabbi, then I'll keep Shabbos. Well, I want to tell you something. You became a rabbi today because I called you up. I didn't just call you up Yosef Daron, I called you up Reb Yosef Daron. So from now on, Andy, I expect you to keep Shabbos. A deal is a deal. I do have the ability to give smicha, you know. All right. You know, I heard that you're a boy of, or young man, I should say, of many interests. You love pets, you love doing music, and you love doing DJing. You love scootering, and you love soccer. So I have a whole variety of things that I could speak to you about, but I'm going to speak to you today about soccer. The reason I'm going to talk to you about soccer is because I could very easily relate it to this week's Parsha. Okay? And we're going to talk about soccer, and we're going to talk a little bit about the Parsha we read yesterday, and we're going to talk about how it's all relevant to you, a young Rabbi Adam. And it goes something like this. There was once a fellow of your age. He didn't come from a traditional home as you did. And he went to visit, together with his grandfather, who happened to be a very religious man. He went to visit the Lubavitcher Rebbe. He was a great rabbi who lived in our lifetime, just a few years ago. So the Rebbe realized that this young man didn't know too much about Judaism, so he wanted to kind of enter into the conversation with the young man. And he says to him, he says as follows, he says, what did you love doing? So he says, you know, more than anything else, I really love playing soccer. So the Rebbe said, like innocently, well, how do you play soccer? So he says, well, it's very simple. You put a ball in the middle of the field, and then there are two teams on each side of the ball. And one team tries to kick the ball into the goals, gets a goal, and the one who gets the most goals, of course, wins the match. So he says, Rabbi, do you understand? So the rabbi said, yeah, I understand, but you said that everybody has to run around chasing the ball. And I don't understand it. Why can't they just stay in one place and wait for the ball to come to them? Says, Rabbi, you really don't understand so well. If one team will stay in one place waiting for the ball to come to them, then the other team will get control of the ball and they'll end up kicking the goal. So Rabbi says, okay, well I understand that, but then I've got another question for you. And my other question to you was like this. He says, why do you need to have two teams? Why can't you just have one team? And then you won't have to worry about the other team, and then you'll be able to just get the goal into the ball, into the goalpost, no problems. He says, Rabbi, you really don't understand. That wouldn't be any fun at all. If there's only one team kicking the ball, then what kind of game is that? It'd get boring after 5 minutes. He says, I said, okay, so I understand now. So if you have another team, it adds a bit of a challenge, and you have to play better, and you can enjoy the ball game a bit better. So he says, but what would you really love to do? So he says, Rebbe, you know what I'd love to do is, I'd like to go to a World Cup soccer match. That's what I want to do more than anything else. He says, what's that about? He says, well, there's two teams playing. They come from all over the world, and they're trying to see who's going to get the most goals. So the Rebbe says to him, he says, hold on a second. You play soccer. What's wrong with your game? He says, Rebbe, you don't understand. When we play, it's only a little game. It's only for amateurs. But when they play, they're the greatest soccer players in the world. That's something really important. That's a real game. Others only like pretend. So Rebbe says to him, he says, you know, I think now I really understand what soccer is all about. So let me tell you what I think soccer is all about, the Rebbe says to him. He says, and Adam, you've got to listen to this. He says the ball represents the world. Just like the ball is round, the world is round. And every person's got the right and the ability to try to be able to kick the ball into the goals. And he says, you know what the goals are? The goals are the gates of heaven. And you have the ability, the Rebbe tells the young man, through doing a mitzvah, to be able to kick the ball through the gates of heaven, through the goalpost. He says, but in order to do so, you can't stand in one spot. Because if you want to stand in one spot, you'll never be able to do it. You need to be able to run to do as many mitzvot as you possibly can. And he says, but you know what? As you're running to do the mitzvot and to try and get that ball, there's another kaim on the other side. His name is the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination. You heard of him, right? Right? And he's trying to get control of the ball off you. He's the other team. And if you want to know why there has to be another team, it's because otherwise life would be very boring. There wouldn't be any challenges. So you've got to run and get the ball, just like in soccer. You've got to run and do the mitzvah, and you've got to be able to come along and conquer over your evil inclination. Every time you want to do a mitzvah, your Yetzer Hara comes along and tells you not to do a mitzvah. And then he says to him, he says, you know what, until now you weren't bar mitzvah, but now you've become bar mitzvah. Before now it was just like a little kid's game. And now it's like the World Cup. It's the real thing. So Adam, you've now entered into the real game of soccer. Not that ball that you kick around the field, but the real game, where you kick the world around. And you gain control of the world every time you do a mitzvah. But in order to be able to gain control of the world, you have to be able to run after the ball. You got to run after all of those mitzvot. And even if evil inclination comes and tells you to do the other thing, Yetzer Hara comes and tells you the other thing, go the other way, you've got to be able to overpower it and get the ball off it. And the truth of the matter is, that's what we read about in the parasha yesterday too. Because in the parasha yesterday we read about two little boys in their mommy's tummy. And their names were Yaakov and Esau, right? And that is the good inclination and the bad inclination. And we read that they're constantly fighting with each other. But we read that ultimately the young one, which is the good inclination, Yaakov, he eventually wins the game. As long as he runs. Because Yaakov is running. And if you read the story carefully, he runs. He actually wins the game. And that's really the story of Yaakov and Esau fighting with each other, so to speak, in their mother's womb, is really the story of life. It's what soccer is really all about. Now your name is Yosef, and Yosef means to add. It's the name of a young man, but it also means to add, besides from being Jacob's second youngest son. And what it means is that you should never be satisfied with doing just one mitzvah. Today you do a mitzvah, tomorrow you try to do another mitzvah. Next day you try to do a little bit more. And never be satisfied with what you have. And realize that Doron, you've got another name, it's called Doron as well. And Doron is also a special name. I'm sure the reason why your parents call you Doron is because they view you as a Doron. A Doron means a gift. And I'm sure they view you as the most precious gift that they have. Okay? But you can give them a gift as well. And the gift which you give them is by living a good and wonderful and positive life. So God Almighty should help that you should live a life full of mitzvot. Make sure you kick all the goals, kick the world into the gates of paradise, of Gan Eden, and bring a lot of happiness to yourself and to all of your family. Mazel tov, mazel tov. Now,